Hey everybody, welcome to Fantastic Comics Future Holds. My name is Yule. I own Fantastic Comics in Berkeley, California. We are located at 1708A MLK Jr. Way. We are open Tuesday through Saturday from 12 to 5 p.m. And in this episode, I am going to be looking at future comic books that are coming out. These are all listed in the Previews catalog. Previews is what most comic shops order from. These are all the titles that aren't DC that are made available, including shirts and toys and all the stuff that Diamond Comics deems appropriate for comic stores to sell, whether they're adult, all ages, or gaming essentials. And on this cover, we have Scott Snyder and Tony Daniels' Nocterra. This was a Kickstarter, I do believe, earlier last year. And it was announced that it was going to be an Image comic. But if you did the Kickstarter, you would achieve all these goals and get all this special stuff. But for everybody else, you can just buy it in the comics shop at, your $3.99, $4.99, $5.99, whatever it's going to be. First up, something I wanted to pay attention to is Carmen Number One. By the way, all these titles are going to be coming out in March. So if you are not a customer of mine, but you do frequent a comic store, these are some titles you're going to want to definitely pay attention to. So like I said, first up, we have Carmen Number One. It's written by Guillaume March with co-writer Dan Christensen. I am not familiar with Dan Christensen, but Guillaume March, who is also the artist of this book, has done many things for Batman, or I should say DC Comics, mostly on Batman titles, Gotham City Sirens, that type of stuff. He's very adept at drawing. I like clothing and sexy bodies. I'm not exactly sure what this is going to be about, but anytime Guillaume March is lending his talent to the page, it's something to pay attention to. And it looks like it should be pretty cool. And Image usually has a pretty good style and aesthetic that they put forth in most of their books. And if you're interested in something that isn't mainstream, this is definitely something you should be paying attention to. Next up from Image Comics, like it said on the cover of the previews, we have Nocterra Number One. This is written by Scott Snyder. Most people know him from DC Comics. He wrote Batman, American Vampire. He's written Death Metal, Justice League, all the big books that we all know about. And Tony Daniel is no stranger. He's done a lot of Batman books, a lot of work for DC. He's had creator-owned stuff. He's worked on the 10th. He's worked on Top Cow comic books. So he is an industry veteran that most people know, and his art is pretty good. And here you can see some of the pages. These are what we get in the Previews magazine. By the way, most comic shops have previews available for customers to peruse, if not buy outright. If you purchase the Previews magazine, you get the Marvel one that comes along with it, so you can see all their offerings. And I would recommend anybody that's interested in comics and doesn't want to be left behind, they should definitely take a few minutes out of their day to pay attention to this. Of course, most of these things are on the internet also. Again, I'm not really sure what this book is going to be about, but I'm looking forward to it because Scott Snyder's a top writer in the business, and Tony Daniel is a top artist in the business, and his stuff is pretty sweet. Next up from Image Comics, and this is the Skybound imprint. That's the Robert Kirkman imprint, where Walking Dead, Invincible, and so many other of his books, and so many other books from other creators of Image get their stuff published. Ultra Mega is the name of this one, and it's written and drawn by James Herron. James Herron has worked on Thor. He has a really big monster style, and he's done other books from Image also. I can't remember the title, but I'm sure I'll have something flashing on the screen right now to remind you what you can pick up from him. He, again, these are just like little images of what is going to be going on in the comic book, so I'm not exactly sure, but it looks like we have some sort of kaiju kind of situation going on. And Ultra Mega also feels very much like Ultraman. And I love James Herron's artwork. He just does a really great job, and I'm looking forward to the big fights that are ahead. Again, from Image, we have a Reckless book, Friend of the Devil. Recently, Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, who signed their second exclusive contract with Image, so they don't publish comic books for anybody else. They brought Criminal and all of the other Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips books that they've worked on from Marvel and other places over to Image. And now there is a Reckless book that they keep coming out with. And these are hardcover individual stories. So I guess we're looking at original graphic novels that are very much in line for anybody that's read Criminal. There's usually some sort of action and gunplay, and it's probably going to be noir in feel. In fact, but the thing is, it's not always stuck in the very old past. It's an old style of storytelling, but set in today, or at least 1985 here. And now finally, we have something that isn't from Image. This is a Dark Horse comic, and it is written and drawn by James Stokoe. It's a 4-issue miniseries called Orphan and the Five Beasts. James Stokoe has a fantastic, very detailed, almost manga-inspired or anime-inspired, however you want to take a look at it, style of artwork, and I really enjoy his work. He did Orc Stain for Image. For Dark Horse, he did Alien's Dead Orbit, which was pretty... Alien doesn't necessarily sell in high amounts, in mass quantities at my store, but James Stokoe's version of it did very well for us. In addition, for IDW, he also did Godzilla. I forget what that was called. It was like the 10,000 Year War or something like that. And his stuff is very good, and I highly recommend checking this out. This is something I'm excited for. Again, all these books that we've talked about are very much art driven. There is some good writers involved with them, but when you have a writer-artist situation, it is mostly for the art, and it's going to be action-based, and I'm really looking forward to it. Next up from Dark Horse Comics, we have Black Hammer Visions number 2. This is an 8-issue miniseries where we are going to see different writers come on to the Black Hammer universe, which was created by Jeff Lemire and Dean Ormston. And they're going to be telling stories about the characters in the universe without Jeff Lemire's oversight, it looks like, or maybe only with his oversight. There's going to be a bunch of different illustrators, a bunch of different writers throughout this series, and I'm really looking forward to it. Black Hammer never has steered me wrong, although it is interesting to see what's going to happen with different writers working on this, since everything has been only Jeff Lemire, unless he's getting help from somebody. All right, so let's see here. In May, this is trades often will be, so trade paperbacks, collections, graphic novels, whatever you want to call them. When they are in the previews book, a lot of times they might not necessarily come out the same month as the comic books for various reasons, but they're also soliciting them in this book so that you know, hey, it's coming out. One of the better books that came out last year was funny, was from Boom Studios, and it is We Only Find Them When They're Dead. This is by Al Ewing, the writer, and Simone DeMeo is the artist. And the concept is we're watching scavengers, miners, if you will, go out in space and harvest the bodies of dead celestials. And that's pretty much the end of the first issue. And it's been a pretty darn good seller in our store, so much so that I haven't been able to actually read the other issues because we sell out of them. So I'm very excited that we're going to be getting the first installment, the first 5 issues in one complete volume that's only going to cost $10. I highly recommend you order this book from your comic store. Pick this one up if you see it at your comic store. It's beautiful. And Al Ewing is a top writer in the industry. He's working at Marvel. He's done Ultimates. He's doing Immortal Hulk, which is a hit. And he's a pretty thoughtful writer. And the art, like I said, is really good. So definitely check this book out. but now we're finally getting to the mainstream. And in so we are talking about Marvel. There is no DC in previews anymore. There's only Marvel. And this is the book I'm most looking forward to. I'm putting in the orders for it right now. I highly, highly suggest people order this, pick it up when they see it. And I'm really trying to push this series, this 5-issue mini-series, as being my top seller of the year. I'm really hoping it can achieve that status. It is written, so it's Beta Ray Bill. It's written and drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson. Daniel Warren Johnson, most recently over at DC for their Black Label titles, did Wonder Woman Dead Earth, writing and drawing, beautiful stuff. Over at Image and Skybound, that's that Robert Kirkman imprint. He wrote and drew Extremity, which was a fantastic story about a young woman who was an artist, but because of the warring nature of her people, lost her hand. This is a retribution for her people attacking these other people. And it's a fantastic series, and it was 12 issues, 2 books collected. I highly recommend that. And he's also done for Image Murder Falcon, again, writing and drawing it. He has Mike Spicer helping him out. And I'm really looking forward to Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill he's a darn good secondary character for a title. Some people love him even more than the character Thor, where he debuted in, when he beat up, when Beta Ray Bill beat up Thor and took his hammer. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this guy's take on it. Again, his action and his art is just perfect for this character. I expect to see a lot of hammer throws and people being ripped up, and I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully Marvel doesn't hold him down too much. But yeah, Beta Ray Bill is one I'm really looking forward to. We talked about Alien earlier. Just recently, Marvel got their hands on all of the Fox properties that they purchased, or I should say Disney purchased. Disney owns Marvel, and now we're going to get a Marvel Alien comic book. It's written by Philip Kennedy Johnson. I'm really not familiar with his work, other than the fact that I know that he does DC's Black Label's Last God series, which I hear is a very good fantasy, but I haven't read it myself. This is going to have artwork by Salvador LaRocca, which I think is probably going to be okay. Salvador LaRocca had more of a manga style when he first started, maybe aping Carlos Pacheco, who I'm not sure may be actually a countryman of his, but he most recently has gotten to this whole, not an artist, so I'm going to say Photoshop, where he's actually taking the images of people from other medias, and he's putting them into comic books. So he did this one with Warren Ellis for Marvel called New Universal. And sure enough, one of the main characters looked like Sawyer from Lost, which was going on at that time. And, you know, when he does a Star Wars comic, it doesn't feel so bad that he might lift Luke Skywalker's face to put him on the comic book. But when when he's just taking pictures of people and putting them in the comic book, I'm not sure if I love it so much. But I think it's going to be pretty good for Alien. I think it should work out pretty well. And if the writer is telling Alien, you don't really need to tell a very deep story. It doesn't have to it doesn't have to be too much more than, you know, a settlers or people investigating a planet and then there's aliens. You can have something way more deeper than that, you know, have like an Aliens. We have the corporation that's going and trying to bring them back to Earth so that they can use them for like military weapons or something like that. Again, a pretty simple premise. As long as you keep that going along with this should be a pretty darn good series. It's got the might of the mighty Marvel behind it, and a fairly competent penciler and possibly up-and-coming writer that's now coming over to Marvel to do something. Looking forward to it. Continuing with Marvel, we have America Chavez, Made in the USA. This was a book that was supposed to come out a little while ago. And of course, that was during the pandemic. I guess we're still in the pandemic, but here in March, we're going to get this finally. America Chavez seems to be a little de-aged and maybe not as her college years as the last series that she had, just called America. Hopefully this will be pretty good. It looks like it's going to have pretty darn good artwork, and I hope it sells pretty well in my store because America in the past has. Next up, we have an artist writing and drawing yet another book. This is another mini-series for Marvel called Demon Days X-Men. It's written and drawn by Peach Momoko, who a lot of you have probably seen her covers all over different companies, Dynamite, Marvel, Image, DC, and she's been lending her talents to all these covers, but now we're finally going to get interior artwork, and on top of that, we're going to get her writing a story, and it's all about Psylocke, Quanon, whoever the heck it is. But it's an X-Men character, and I like the style, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what a cover artist is actually going to be able to do on the interiors. All right, now, last but not least, we've got Amazing Spider-Man 2 offerings this month. We're going to have issue number 61, penciled by Patrick Gleason, writer, as always, Nick Spencer. But most importantly, 62 comes out. And if you're the kind of person that wants to speculate on a book, or you're the kind of person that wants to make sure that you get a specific cover, or you're the kind of person that wants to make sure you get your book, but you don't get it put on a pull list, this is the one for you. You got to pay attention to this because we're going to have a brand new costume for Spider-Man, a brand new status quo. And this is going to be the one that everybody is going to be clamoring for. Don't screw up like you possibly did for Amazing Spider-Man number 55. That cover blew up. Everybody wanted it. And I think everybody's going to want this one too. So if you don't want your store to guess, let them know that you want this, and they're going to have up until a month before it comes out to finalize their orders. But don't sleep on this. If this is the kind of thing that interests you, you better jump on it now, because this is going to be the big deal, at least for Spider-Man, probably for 2021. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you are a customer of Fantastic Comics, like I said, email us, call us, come on in the store. We'll hold any or all of these books for you. I'm excited about every single one of these. Spider-Man's a character that I collect. Some of the other ones for the art alone, I'm really looking forward to. And then in a situation like Demon Days, I'm really excited to see how a cover artist is actually going to do the inside work. Plus, we're getting a lot of people that normally don't necessarily write their own books getting a chance to do so. So hopefully that will work out for them. Nonetheless, I really appreciate everybody for tuning in. Make sure you give a like if you do. Subscribe to this channel because I'm going to be putting these out every month. And whether you're a customer of my store or not, you should be clued in to what's coming out and what people might be interested in, possibly what you're interested in. See you next time.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, think about subscribing and maybe give us a thumbs up too.